One of my favorite childhood GI Joe Cobra action figures has been remade for the modern era. And is it as good as I remember, or possibly even better? This is Metalhead. He is one of the new deluxe figures from the GI Joe Classified series. Because the windowed packaging is back, I can see already things that I like about this figure. I cannot wait to open him up, so let's do just that. And there he is out of the box. He's still got some of this plastic blister to get out. It's time to free this Iron Grenadier from his plastic prison. There we go, that is a lot better. Granted, there are still so many accessories to get out, but you can see a lot of attention to detail. I also noticed the back of his jacket here. Does it seem to be like a little nod to Dead Space, the old EA game? Because that spine right there totally reminds me of the health meter from the main character. Now, why did I like this figure growing up as opposed to a lot of the other Cobras who looked cooler, wackier, and all that kind of stuff? I think part of the reason is because I remember specifically picking him out at a Kmart and being told that yes, it was possible to bring him home that day for no other reason than I was just a good boy. So immediately off the bat, I'm starting to get a little bit of Firefly V1 vibes here. And a lot of that I think has to do with this vest. It kind of reminds me of a Bomb Squad vest. Some other really great details. It says right here, Cold Slither, right there on the vest. And then on his arm here, it has a Destro with a sword. And any other things, there is a slight face tattoo underneath his left eye. If you're like me and remember the original Metalhead, you know that he had a sweet pair of yellow goggles. You don't see them on here. And the reason for that is because his hair can remove and you can put on different hair, different helmet configurations. We'll see that when we get more of the accessories out. Something brand new in GI Joe Classified series are these pegs on the thigh armor. That's going to allow us to socket on some rocket launchers to make Metalhead even cooler. He's an Iron Grenadier after all. He has to bring a lot of firepower. Let's check out his joints before we get all of the other accessories out. So we're going to move the arm. The butterfly joint was initially a little stiff, but I can see some good movement here. Double jointed elbows. Ooh, those move really nice. His torso has that T-cut, so he can look up and down even though he has this bulky vest. It's a decent crunch. His head does move down very nicely. Back doesn't because he has the swept hair. And if we move the double jointed knees, those move pretty well, actually. There's not a lot of stiff parts. The ankles rock side to side, up and down. So far, this figure is looking pretty good. The only thing I've noticed so far as a slight ding against it is the hair isn't all of that way. It kind of wobbles. It looks like he's almost wearing a bit of a wig. Maybe that's going to change when we put some of the different hair helmet styles on him. Yet to be seen. It took quite a bit to get all of the accessories unboxed. One of the absolute stars of this is his backpack. It's an articulated rocket launcher. It's got some of these tubes here. I don't know if I put them in the right way after they fell out, getting them out of the packaging. But there is a reason that these are really cool, and we'll get into that with some of the other accessories. Like the big backpack rocket launcher, we also have the thigh rocket launchers. These socket into that thigh armor right there, and we'll be able to hold some missiles. We're getting to those. Standard Cobra laser rifle right there. He has a small little knife and an assault rifle that goes along with everything else. I don't know why he'd need them. He has a lot of missile launchers. Can you tell that I'm building up for the missiles? And before we get to those missiles, let's check out some of his alternate, I guess, hair sculpts. Here is this very cool looking, almost ancient gladiator style helmet. And then here we have his traditional look with those awesome yellow visor goggles that have all of the, I guess, targeting on them. Now for the main show, these are the rockets that fly out of his backpack. So there are 3 different styles of blast effects, 2 different styles of rockets. Here is the medium-sized blast effect with the small rocket, and they do remove. You can remove these, so they are individual. And here we have the small blast effect with the small rocket. And I'll just pair those up with the medium blast effect so you can just see the slight difference there. It's subtle, but it works really well. And then here we have the large missile and the large blast effect. Compare those to all 3 sizes, you get an idea of how many missiles this guy has. I mean, this is a fantastic accessory set. And I think now it's time to start putting it all together and what he looks like with all of that. I don't know. Let's try it out. His helmet doesn't have the registration marks that his hair does. We'll take a closer look at that when we get over to the table. But I think what I have to do with him is put his normal hair on. Let's socket that on. And then I put the helmet on. No. Huh. No, that doesn't work. Because look, that kind of spreads out the helmet. That looks wrong. So I think you just have to take off the hair, put on the helmet, And yeah, that looks really good, and the helmet does stick on pretty well. It doesn't need the registration marks. And what this actually allows us to do is try this on other action figures, because those keys that would slot into the top of his head aren't present in this helmet. So this is a helmet that can be used across other GI Joe figures. That's really cool. And now let's put on his goggle hair. I like what they did with this. We just opened Buzzer and his glasses weren't working all that well. And I think if we would have had a face sculpt, or a hair sculpt, I guess, with his goggles built into the hair, that would have been a much better fit. Yeah, and it wouldn't have fallen off. That looks good. This looks classic. That's a very classic look. Just for nostalgia's sake, I'm going to keep this on while we put all of the other accessories on it. His knife goes into his vest across like that. Not quite sure which way these go right now, but I do know this sockets onto the thigh armor. So we'll try it like that. Oh, you know what? That looks pretty good. So we'll just go with the silver part in the back. That'll be our exhaust. Wow, okay, those sit really well. Now, I am a little leery over time because this is a separate piece. This is just one of those slip-on parts that go over his thigh. If that's going to sag over time, but right now it's a solid fit. I don't have any complaints about that. And the way that the backpack works, because it is hefty, it sockets in 3 different places. So you have your standard GI Joe peg in the back, and that fits with the main hole right there. There's also 2 other little inlets that match up with these outlets on his vest in the back. Oh, that fits so nice and snug. That is really great. Ah, okay. I like where this is going here. Where do these tubes port into? I think they port in the back right here. I don't know if you can see that. I'm gonna plug the corresponding tube into the corresponding rocket launcher. I'm guessing this is the way that they get all of the fuel or targeting data or launch commands to those thigh rockets, which is just kind of a silly thing to think about. I'm having a little difficulty getting those in there, but I'm guessing if I just work at it. I do know those fit in there. I mean, there's no other spot for these to plug in, so we'll have to get a little closer look when we're at the table. Let's just put some rockets on this guy because, I mean, that's what he's for, right? The rockets. I've got one already socketed in here. Yeah, you can put a large rocket in one of those too. If you were to take the missile off, you could probably fit the other end of these blast effects into other weapons. I'm guessing that's how these work. All right, here we go. The last large rocket into the top rocket launcher. There we go. Now this is a GI Joe. But I can already tell you what I really like about this figure is the accessory set. There is so much going on here, so many points of articulation, the hair, the helmets. Everything seems to be very well thoughtfully done. It seems like somebody at the GI Joe team also really enjoyed Metalhead, possibly one of their favorite Cobras as well. Get a closer look at him because I really want to get a closer look at him too. And here we have Metalhead, just as I had him right before we got to the table here. You can see a lot more of the detail with this figure. Chrome on the back of these missile launchers, the backpack. There's so much detailing and knurling and bits and rivets and all kinds of cool things that really make this figure stand out. And if you look at that chin guard there on his blast jacket, there looks like some weathering. It looks like some dry brushing on that. It's really subtle, but it makes this character pop. Here's the thing. Let's try to get these hoses all situated for Metalhead here. So I think what I'm going to do first is get it in these lower rocket launchers first and see which one takes. No, see, those really aren't going all that well. I don't know what's happening here. Let's try to take one of these off and see if I can't just get it going. I don't know. These seem to be more trouble than they're worth. And when I think about it and I add those, it's going just to limit his range of movement on these rocket launchers here, because anytime I move that, these are going to flex, and if they flex the wrong way, they're just going to pop right out. So you know what? We're just going to use a little bit of imagination and pretend that these are there and just consider them extra accessories. So let's take off his backpack. I want to pay special attention to these missile launchers and the blast effect. So we've got the blast effect right here, and if I take the missile off, I want to see if I can't seat these inside of the launcher here. And no, they don't. They do not seat in there. I could put them in backwards, but that's just kind of funny looking. And of course, they're not going to fit in that way either. See if the blast effect goes in the back there. They do. Okay. So you can put the blast effects backwards if you want to make it look like he's using them as a jetpack. I think you could do that as well. It's somewhat of a miss that these don't fit in there naturally, because I remember with Bazooka and the Snow Serpent, you can load one of the missiles in the launcher. Same with Scrap Iron's tank drone, right? Like you can do that, and it gives it like a nice little dimension to it, a nice little play quality. Remember, like this is one of my very favorite childhood toys, so I'm giving this guy a lot of passes here. So that's how I feel about that. And then let's see if this is the same scenario on the lower half too. Let's see if this won't fit in. Okay, so these will fit in. These will fit in the thigh armor rocket launchers. It's a loose fit. These are going to fall right out. But you can do it. They can sit in there, which, you know, I think that's the way to go. And I wish the larger ones would have had that too, but we don't have that ability. So, alas. Let's talk about the hair a little bit more. So we can remove this hair with the classic goggles. And if we put the helmet on, that gives him a much gnarlier look. I think it's cool. So, like, to me, he's a very high-tech character, but to have this very old-fashioned, very medieval Roman gladiator-style helmet is a really cool feature. And if we put just the normal hair back on him, we'll see it is a little loose. It kind of, like, it flops around like a wig a little bit. It's silly. I don't see a lot of people using just the normal hair, though. Like, you would have to go with the classic look here or with this really awesome helmet. You know, for me, I've got to go with the classic look. There's no other way. To me, these goggles, these yellow goggles with the targeting, this is what makes Metalhead. And to not have those on him is, you know, a miss. One thing I'm noticing about him as I play with him is the fact that the center of gravity can go all kinds of wild places. There are so many points of articulation, the way that these rocket launchers can swing, move up, move down. If I put him in any sort of pose or position, he's going to have some trouble standing up. So let's give that a try right now. His joints move really well, so I don't really have any concerns with that. Let's see if we can't get him in just kind of a normal standing, like superhero bracing for impact pose, and see what that does to his center of balance, center of gravity. Where do we go from here? There we go, like this. There we go. That took a lot of fiddling. That is a good-looking pose for minimal effort, but the effort that went into it was finding that center of balance. I think what I would do in the future is use something like this, like one of these stands here, or even use one of my Funko stands. All of these things sticking out too, I didn't think about that until removing them, is that we're moving the center of balance out, weight distribution, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot to think about. Like this is a figure that I need to think a lot about. And just, let's try this. Let's take one of these smaller blast effects and we'll port it at the end of this and see if this works. It does. I know that looks really bad, but you can do it. You can port these into the small end of the barrels. All right, I think I've gushed enough about Metalhead here. I have explained a few of my issues with him, so let's take him over, get some cool poses. We'll try to use some stands if we need it, and from there, I will give you my overall summary of Metalhead. All right, ready? Let's go. Looking at Metalhead as much as I did. This is one of the very newest members of the GI Joe Classified series here in 2024. I really like what they did with the accessory kit, how many points of articulation there are, the way that the backpack was thoughtfully done, because it is a heavier thing, that there's multiple points of attachment, so it doesn't just kind of jostle out or let gravity take over and do its thing. And initially, I wasn't quite sure what they were doing with the helmet, but once I thought about it, that helmet can then be used for other GI Joe figures if you want to. I'm really happy that Metalhead got the classified treatment. This is a great modern update to the figure, who was one of my favorites as a kid. A couple things that were difficult with the figure is the hoses in the back. It proved to be a little more trouble than what it gave aesthetically. The other thing too is because of the points of articulation, the center of balance on this figure transfers and goes all kinds of crazy places. It is a little hard to pose him, it's a little hard to stand him. You might need the assistance of either some of those stands that clamp around his waist, or just one of those base stands so that you can peg his feet into that. Through and through, Metalhead is a fantastic figure for the GI Joe Classified series. If you pre-ordered one, amazing. If you haven't been able to get your hands on one yet, keep a lookout because I think there's so many cool things going on here. Just for the backpack alone, you have to check out this figure. Thank you so much for watching. That's it. That's everything I have for Metalhead. If you like GI Joe Classified, if you like action figures, if you like Nerf, please follow this channel so you can get updated when the next video appears. And if you're in a position to support this channel, consider a channel membership. Starting at 99 cents a month, you can help create the videos and get some behind-the-scenes access to what I'm working on next. All right, that's it. Thanks so much for watching.